I'll tell you, they're not nice to Republicans. I mean, Mike Johnson got that experience and he's tweeting about it. It's great. You know what? I love that we live in a world when you can and will call them out. So he went on to Face the Nation, which is a show hosted by the woman who conducted that debate between the two VPs recently. And he was a little perturbed because, you see, he said one thing. He was talking about the victims of Helene and Milton, and ultimately they aired something entirely different. I mean, it's just wrong.
So that's a different accounting than this 2% you say was distributed.
Yeah, so they've obligated some funds, but they've only distributed 2%. The rescue and recovery effort's still going on, and then we address the rest of it.
So that's a different accounting than this 2% you say was distributed.
Yeah, so they've obligated some funds, but they've only distributed 2%. And when I was there on the ground, and you should go, I mean, bring the cameras and talk to the people there. They'll tell you, don't take politicians' words for this or the administration's word. Talk to the people there on the ground. They had not been provided the resources almost 2 weeks out from the storm that they desperately needed. And when I was there, 13 days post the storm hitting that state, people are still being rescued. They're stuck in the higher elevations in the mountains because the roads are down and all the rest. So they need every available resource and all hands on deck. The rescue and recovery effort's still going on, and then we address the rest of it.
Very different, right? So if you think about the editorial value of both of those things, he was making the point that people aren't getting what they need. They aren't getting the funding. Yes, they haven't deployed all the funding and they're not getting it, even the ones that, and then if you listen to the first version, the version that aired, it sounds like everything's kind of okay, right? I get maybe, they wanted to take out for time. You guys should go down there. You guys should go down there. You don't necessarily need that, but the editorial value of what Mike Johnson was saying was completely compromised. And so these are things you just don't do, right? As a journalist, you can, as I said, it's sometimes our instinct to try and clean things up. And we have to guard against that. Like when I say, okay, no, let that breathe. In other words, if Joe Biden can't come up with a single sentence or a single word, we need to feel that in real time because that's painful. And we can't make it look any better than it is. And the same thing with Kamala Harris. If she's going to go around and around and around in a word salad, we as viewers need to understand and see that. It's part of the transparency process. You can't hide that. And in this case, they're just changing the editorial value of what he's saying altogether. I've told some of you this before. I have interviewed Jack Welch, the former Jack Welch, now deceased, former head of General Electric many times. And I remember one of the first times I asked him to come on my show, he said, Trish, only if it's live. I was like, well, can we do live to tape? No, I'm not even doing live to tape. Only if it's live. Because you know what? Things can be sort of edited. I remember him telling me this, and I think he'd had an experience himself with 60 Minutes, so he wasn't going there again. And he said, I learned my lesson. I'm always doing it live. So why isn't Kamala Harris doing her interview live with Brett Baier? I would have demanded it if I were Brett. Apparently no conditions, except that one. She's not going to do it live. Goodness gracious.